And at the beginning of it all, our protagonist is hacking an animal that appears to be ridiculously strong. And he kills that creature with extreme ease, and then the system presents him with the notification of the boss's completion, and he eliminated the boss of the area, the Scorpion King, and in that he wonders what he should hunt now, as he will be bored for a while. And this is said about the world's largest virtual MMORPG, the Arena, and it is the first in the world ranking, first in total character level and first in Colosseum points, the greatest player to leave behind unbeaten records, Melee God, and he bluntly says that it was time to get out of there and focus on the real world, so that day, he decided permanently exit the game, and his friend asks if he's crazy, asking if he deleted his Arena account, and Jil Young-chan and Hyun Woo ask why he is so surprised, saying that he can't just keep playing games forever, because he needs to focus on the real world, but Young-chan asks how he could not be surprised, because the character in the first place simply disappeared, and only selling his items would already guarantee hundreds of thousands of reis, but in this Hyun Woo says he made that decision because he didn't want to regret it in the future, and for him, games should be fun, not a way to make money, and Jil Young-chan asks, what is he going to do from now on, and the boy says he is going to enlist in the army, and inherit his father's business, and Jil Young-chan is left wondering why he bothered with that idiot rich kid, but Hyun Woo says there was a time when he said that, but someone somewhere once said that life was unpredictable, and so 2 years. Then he's already serving a drunk at a convenience store while he works, and he says that man stinks of alcohol, and besides he looks like a goblin, that he sees the man as a real goblin, saying that annoying customers are horrible, and in that, he introduces himself again, saying that he is currently working a part-time job in a convenience store, earning 40 reis an hour, and he is surprised, because who would have imagined that the super-rich successor of the construction company, Dansu, would have such a big decline, because the decline, again, began around the end of his military service vacation, with the company going bankrupt, and he says that his father, the pillar of the family, fell ill, and his family was mired in immense debt, and he had no other choice but not to support your family, and your main source of food is expired food from the convenience store, and he has to save as much money as possible to pay his father's medical expenses and family bills, and he wonders how long will be able to live like this, when he receives a message from Young-chan, telling him to respond, because he already knows everything, and he questions the boy who he thinks they are for friends, saying that they exist to help each other in situations like these, and at this Hyun Woo notices that Young-chan has not yet given up on him, and says he is grateful, revealing also that it was actually him who started ignoring the boy, after his family went bankrupt, because he just couldn't get in touch with him, because he thought that talking to the boy would only make him feel more pathetic, and Young-chan keeps message him asking if he's going to ignore him, until he gives the boy the idea. Hyun Woo's attention, and the boy says that the arena is quite profitable lately, and if he becomes a streamer or debuts as a pro player, it will be a piece of cake for him to get millions, and he says he just wanted to remember that this option is intimate, since he was the former top 1 ranker, and in that he thinks in the arena, because if he could obtain his status as a ranking at that time, maybe he really can make money from the arena, and he says that if this is true, it will be good, and in that, he goes to the mall, but tells himself that he got his hopes up for nothing. Because he doesn't realize this at that time, because he bought it without thinking twice, but the cube that he uses to play is very expensive, and that's at least 3 times his salary, so he wonders, because it was in his account at that time, because now that he stopped to think, it was a huge waste, and in that one of your friends from the past will have Hyun Woo, and the pro of the question here is in class, and the boy says it's Jun Hanbeek, then no. I don't know if he doesn't remember, and Hyun Woo has a little difficulty, but he remembers that he is the delinquent son of his father's partner, Mr. Young, and in this the boy speaks, who thinks that the great son of the lord of the Dansu construction company doesn't think he is important enough to even remember him, so Hyun Woo complaining that he's talking, but Hanbeek asks him to stay calm, as it was just a joke, and he looks scared, so the kid thinks this shit is still as usual, telling the kid to just finish it. What were you doing there and leaving, and in that Hanbeek says that people usually go shopping. Hyun Woo's family is now bankrupt, he wonders if he has money to be in their place, and at that Hyun Woo asks how he knows that, and the boy question as well as asking his parents about him and they didn't tell him, because what happened to his family was all his father's fault, and in that Hyun Woo asks if he is saying that it was Mr. Young who betrayed his father, and Hanbeek says that his father worked for decades, and it was time for him to go out on top, and also, says he found out that his father was so shocked that he collapsed, and you will have to take care of the old man closely, as he will not want to leave him alone in bed of death. Dude, there's no way this author thought it was normal for an NPC to say something like that, literally. The guy saying that it's his own father's fault that his father is in a vegetative state, so I don't understand anymore. And with that, Hyunwoo goes after him, punching him in the face and cursing him. He is a huge story, and the security guards start to come closer to calm things down, fight, and question what Hyunwoo thinks he's doing, and he remains pissed off about the reason of your father being bedridden, and the reason why your family is in ruins, and that. To Johnza Hanbeek is saying that it was all because of his family, and then that girl asks what he's doing, telling him to call the police now, but Hyunwoo says to Hanbeek, saying that he will kill him, no matter what happens, but a while later he is already leaving the police station in the middle of a huge shower, and then he thinks about money, wondering if money is really that good, and he thinks that Young doesn't. He only betrayed his family, but he still goes around bragging about it as if it were a reason to. Pride, so he thinks he will get his revenge, but he wonders how he will get revenge, so he says he has no power now to get his revenge, but in front of a TV he hears that someone recently signed a contract of $2.5 million, and the person on TV says that apparently he has already won millions. When streaming the arena, then they notice that it's a lot of money, and she says that currently the arena is having a bigger impact on the economy than imagined, with the emergence of several jobs related to the game, so he thinks about the arena, and when he picks up the phone, he thinks he felt no shame or pride, his body simply moved on its own. Herself calling Young-chan, and the boy answers, saying that it's been a while since, doesn't talk to him, asking why he hasn't replied to his messages yet, but at which Young-ho apologizes for calling out of the blue, then Young-chan asks what happened, and he complains if the boy can help him, because he wants to go back to the arena, and already in the executive of the game the workers go completely crazy, because something great has happened, and Milligrad came back, and a guy who is sweating inside the office says that a character, Milligrad's user information. So its boss asks who this Malgod is, but the guy says it's Milligrad, the perfectionist Milligrad, and the boss is surprised, asking if he came back, but it was all irony, asking if the subordinate thought he would say that, because why would he care about a player of shit from 2 years ago, sending him back to work, and in that the girl who was back there noticed that Milligrad returned, and she quickly speaks to Alpid in the report of the status of the character who is in the tutorial now, and in that the elf talks to the manager who is the character Kong Hyung-woo, who is currently in the tutorial, just finished the magic power test, and the NPC Guile says that he set a new application record of the magical power test, and the boy comes back quite OP, and talks to Alpid, saying, who would like to ask you to give him the next test soon, and he says that this arena is the only way he can change his situation, so be it, because he will become a ranking again, and a while before Yongshan takes him to his house, saying that he can use that video game there, so Hyung-woo apologizes to him, saying that he doesn't has the money to say that, but he promises to make it up to him, and with that the boy asks, so he won't be so depressing since he hasn't seen you in so long, so give him a punch him, calling him a scoundrel and telling him not to use it and to disappear again, and in that, when he enters the game, he already picks up a sword, having good control, and asks to Alp start the real doctor, and she says that according to the record she will give you the test, level 10, and so he says it's been a while since he fought in the arena, and he stays face to face with a rather stylish elf type, and he thinks this is the tutorial, and notice that it is a level 10 dark elf warrior, and he says that it is not a place bad to begin with, but he thinks he shouldn't get too excited, so he thinks in controlling his breathing, and then L, seeing that his eyes are closed, screams to the boy saying that the tutorial has already started, with the elf going towards him, and the elf talks to the boy saying it was a mistake on his part, closing his eyes, but Hyung-woo manages to dodge the elf's attack, saying that he doesn't think it was a mistake, and in that Al notices that a level 1 user blocked an elf warrior's attack, and is surprised, and the kid thinks it's been so long, that he just defended without even thinking about it. Difference in level, and thankfully it worked, and he thinks that the reason he succeeded to reach first place as melee god, it was because no one could reach his level of control, and Al gets more and more pissed off, saying he should be stronger and fast, but that damn human, and his attacks are getting more and more sharp, and while talking to Hyung-chan, he told everything that happened, and he asks, so that friend serve, because it was difficult for him in the first month, then Hyung-woo must live with him for the first month, and the boy thinks of his gratitude and his despair, and in his revenge, as he savages the elf by throwing his sword away, and he thinks, who will repay all of this by finishing the elf with a single attack, and then to do this, he will become a ranking in the arena, and an unimaginable speed, and then that twin woman who was watching him thinks that that a newly created character was able of defeating a level 10 Dark Elf warrior, and this is even better than expected. And she notices that the melee god hasn't lost his abilities, and Al starts congratulating him. He, saying that the tutorial ended there, and the boy finally enters the game, and will have Del, the chief of the village Aslan, who welcomes him very warmly, and gives him the reward of the test, which is the ring that contains the spirit of a giant. Then the boy notices that it is a unique item, saying that it was worth going to the level 10 test, saying he had a great start, and Hyung Chan asks if he finished the tutorial, and he says he'll send the boy a ride, asking him to go to the east gate, and maybe your ride, but Hyung Woo says he needs to make an item, and in that he found at another time, so Hyung Chan questions what item, and the boy says no, we'll spoil the surprise, and then show him. Then Hyung Chan says he just started, questioning what he is planning, but in this Hyung Woo before saying goodbye asks to borrow 50 gold, because he forgot he had nothing, and Hyung Chan ends up lending it, and the boy says that in the past there was an item that all hardcore players used, nicknamed XP Potion, and it was a popular item that increased your XP gain by 20% for 4 hours. XP Potion was an extremely expensive item, and was sold for 3,000 gold each, but the supplier ended up disappearing, and the potion ended up disappearing from people's memories, or so they thought, because Hyung Woo himself was the supplier, and he says that he still XP potions, and if he sells them at auction, he could put the price you want, but the final ingredients are not falling, and he got a large list of items, and in this he realizes that there is nothing to do, this pile must not be gone. Catch him in a dungeon, but he gets pissed because a guy says he can't enter the dungeon, because that dungeon belongs to your guild, the Black Skull Guild, and is not a place for newbies. Keep coming in, and in that he says that that dungeon is the only place where he can get the final ingredient, asks him what he thinks it is, and to that he says he should move out of the way, while it's still being cool, but the guy says he looks like he's just started, and he's just going to let him leave this time, telling the boy to go to work right away, but Hyung Woo loses the patience telling him to get out of the way, because he is busy, but then the player throws his sword on the boy's neck, talking to him, asking if he didn't hear what he's saying to. Great, and when Hyung Woo is called a rookie, he gets very angry, saying that his life depends on this game, and he doesn't want to waste a single second, and asks how about a bet. It's worth choosing the character with a newbie, asking if the guy won't chicken out, and in this it is said about the character deletion bet, and if you lose, your character is deleted, but since there aren't many players who are willing to risk it, it's not something that actually happens, but that guy accepts the offer and says he'll have to do the other one account. Then Hyung Woo says that the tradition of betting on choosing the character is, and so Hyung Woo together with the system establishes the themes, and the terms established are the winner wins all, and the exclusion of the character, and so the two accept, and the duel will begin, and that player says he can't run away now, but the boy says he'll finish him off in 5 minutes, and he should say goodbye to his character, and the guy gets really pissed, but Hyung Woo tells him, don't be afraid, because he will hardly have the chance to fight someone like him, and he should think of it as a lesson. Wow, bear of humility, and at the beginning of the duel, the guy says they will see how long he can keep bluffing, and Hyung Woo leaves to on top of him quickly, swinging his sword, which his opponent ends up dodging, and the NPC says that he won't be able to keep up with your speed, with the agility of a novice, so let him go one sword towards the boy, but Hyung Woo blocks it easily, and the NPC is very surprised, thinking that there is no way this could have happened, because he certainly has a much higher level than him, and he keeps throwing his swords at the boy, but Hyung Woo only with one hand can reflect all of them, and the NPC wonders if he has a unique item or something, and thinking about it, he seems too relaxed for the newbie, and one wonders if he is a hunter of players disguised as rookies. Meanwhile Hyung Woo thinks his attacks are simple too much, and he's already starting to get nervous, so when he gives the boy another attack, he ends up ducking down and hitting the NPC's leg, and notices that he is full of openings, and in that, he is getting more and more pissed off, calling the boy a shitty rat, and Hyung Woo thinks he is not possible, wondering if that beast disabled sensitivity and pain, then he says it will be easier than expected, activating the giant's strength, which increases his strength for a while limited, and so he goes up to the NPC, this time throwing punches, and in that he starts to get hit everywhere, and he is discredited for being pressured by a newbie like that, and in that, he wonders what the hell this guy is, with Hyung Woo putting on such an absurd presence that he sees the boy as a giant, and he questions if the NPC is thinking about something else in the middle of the fight, saying that he's going to end it then, questioning what he thinks, but as the boy comes up, the NPC thinks he needs to block that attack, but his body doesn't move, and Hyung Woo just decapitates him, and tells him that he is not feeling pain, so of course he does not know the state of his own body, and thus he obtains victory, and reward is distributed according to the rule. Winner takes all, and Hyung Woo is happy, because it turns out he had a lot of items, so he prepare to go after the final ingredient, and already in Alan's workshop there is a capsule. He has a location in production now, and he could 2 items in place of the players, however, he can't. Start to see the lack of skill of players in creating items, and Hyung Woo thinks it's a shame. Can only do this once a month, but he still remembers well what it was like, so he gets the potion XP, and now he sets out to profit from that beauty, and on that day, at the exclusive location of Arena Exchange, in the Arena store, an absurd item was added, and everyone is surprised to have an XP potion at the auction, and there was only one in the entire auction, and all the users went to the auction to get it, and this resulted in the potion's value increasing exponentially, and those months ago, the maximum value of the potion was 3,000 gold, but it ended up being sold for 5,000 gold, and so he gets a lot of money, and thinks that as soon as he pays us by weighing his father in the hospital, that your cost of living will still be around 2,000 gold left, and 1 gold is around 5 reis, so it's definitely better than working part-time at the convenience store, and he says that becoming a streamer or a professional gamer, he will have to level up to get a combat power. Then the first thing he needs to do is level up and get equipment, and he thinks about using the remaining 2,000 gold efficiently, because he will get the most practical equipment instead of aesthetic sets, and he asks for the leather coat with the spirit of wind, and the leather pants of red mole, as well as the sharp long sword, and at this the mayor is surprised, because the boy has changed a lot since the last time he saw him, so he asks if he joined to some cult, but the boy says he didn't join. Meanwhile some girls start to feel and wondering if he's a traffic light. My god, what a ridiculous outfit he looks like. When I get any free skin in the game and put it on the character, he starts calling them of stupid idiots, because usefulness is more important than appearance, and in this the mayor says that his face is the same color as his pants, asking if he is okay, so he just asks for a mission, and in that he goes straight in front of a dog that appears to be very hungry, and they attack him, and he manages to defeat them easily with his swords, which may be because his states have increased, but he feels that he is lighter, and in this the dogs begin to feel the lack of environmental protection politicians, and Ramon realizes that those items were so expensive for nothing, killing the monsters quickly, and he thinks fashion doesn't matter. What matters are the results, and so he completes the mission, because the wolves of the forest were all killed, and with that he tries to concentrate again, because he is not playing to have fun, he is betting his life on it, and every minute, every second of his time is money, and he thinks that now the goal is to be the best of the goblins, and his goal is to reach level 10 of the day. Then in front of the dungeon he notices that there are many people, and the man quickly goes to he's saying he is recruiting members for the team, saying he is looking for players close range, and Ryan introduces himself saying that he fights at close range, asking if he can join, and the guy lets him, but then asks the boy to wait, and Ryan is in doubt, and the man says he doesn't seem to have any immunity items, so he tells him to look for a group of rookies, as they are an advanced team, and asks the boy not to take it badly, but Ryan stays all blown up as he talks about the rookie team, and telling who that guy thinks he is. Because of his immunity, he can easily avoid and deal with a goblin's poisonous spit, and in that, a person comes up behind him, asking if he has any experience with the goblin dungeon, and she says it's her first time in her dungeon, and they're also looking for someone with experience, and if it's okay, she'd like to invite you to her group, asking what he thinks, and she plays that charm on our cattle, and he falls for it like a duck, saying that of course, we'll carry you, telling you not to worry about anything, because you are with him and you are with God. She says that she has now got the last member, taking him to her group, but none of them Ryan Wo's presence, and in this the girl who is wanting to win our protagonist based on instinct asks why they don't start by introducing themselves, and she is supposed to be one level 20 priestess, Choi Somi. Then Ryan Wo introduces himself talking about being a level 20 warrior, 20, and he talks about a nice benefit of the arena system as it keeps the status window private of the user. Then the other says he is a level 24 warrior, Choi Jinwo, and the boy with freckles, level 22, Park Cho Min, and the mage says she's G, a level 23 mage, and I'll forget their names, one will be tank, the other will be archer, G is even easy, but I'll call her a little magician, and at that tank asks Ryan Wo if he'll be okay hunting goblins without any defense items, and he says he has a very good technique, and in that the priestess says it's rude to say that to someone she recruited, asking if he doesn't trust her. He says he doesn't really trust her, and he says he doesn't want to die because of her, and in that, two start to bite each other, and Tank calls them to be able to see his ability soon, calling the boy to enter the dungeon, and as soon as they enter they come face to face with some goblins, well armed and with a bad face, so Tank tells them to get ready, because it will be their first fight together, and in that some goblins throw blowguns in their direction. But the Tank manages to stop all those projectiles and asks the rear guard to stay active, and the little witch says that they are ready to invoke a spell together with the archer, who will take his arrows, so he takes the double shot while she launches the magic arrow, and Ryanwo thinks that even though he was very worried, that group is working surprisingly well together, and they wonder why they would bother accepting him as one member, but he tries not to think about it too much, because as long as he levels up, he doesn't care. And so after killing all those goblins, the Tank asks his friends if they have been hunting for a while, more than an hour, and the mage talks to Ryanwo, saying that they were doing very well, and the archer says that his sword moved phenomenally, wondering if he is using any item, but Ryanwo says he had already reversed, because he is confident in his techniques, and in that the priestess asks Tank to rest a little, and he complies with her request, saying that he has to make sure that they are prepared then, and they will need to fight the hobgoblin later, with a planned. Then Ryanwo asks about the hobgoblin, asking if none of them have defeated the boys yet. Then the Tank says that only he defeated it, and in that he says that the hobgoblin is very difficult to defeat, with a group of level 20s, and it's been a while since he's defeated one too, and in that the Tank talked to the priestess, asking her to pay close attention when giving buffs, and he also talks to the mage, asking her to be careful not to spend too much mana, and as for the archer he must just be careful not to shoot his allies, she who doesn't make mistakes like that anymore, and in that Ryanwo realizes that he might be able to end it, an arrow in the knee because of his own group, and so the archer uses his magic noticing, which is the entrance to the hobgoblin, and he is there sitting on the throne behind several goblins, and the Tank talks to the rear guard telling them to take care of the smaller goblins, while he and Ryanwo go gain time, and he asks the priestess to just not forget to buff them, and she complies with that, and he then shouts saying it's time to raid the boys, and as soon as they enter they receive a priestess who will make his strength and agility increase, and so the hobgoblin sends all the goblins towards the invaders, but they end up dying very easily, and while Ryanwo kills one more he notices the hobgoblin preparing a spell, and asks the Tank to leave there, but he ends up receiving that attack on the shield, being thrown directly into the wall. Then Ryanwo is left asking if the hobgoblin is a mutant that can use magic and spawn, and he says it will be fine. Problematic if he throws another dark ball as he has to attack it before it has a chance. Then he shouts to the rear, asking him to deal in cover, but all three continue, destabilized by their leader being completely injured, until he yells at them again, and they realize what they have to do. Then Ryanwo wonders why they are just looking, and wonders where that teamwork from before went, and at that the hobgoblin prepares another dark ball, and the boy is surprised by it, but before he could notice anything coming from behind him, which he ends up deflecting the arrow that was coming with his sword, and it hits the hobgoblin's eye directly, blinding the boy unintentionally, and then he asks if the archer had to miss at a time like this, and the boy starts asking for help, and Ryanwo starts to wonder if these guys want him dead or something, but then he decides to ignore it for now, as his priority is to take care of that guy in front of him. Besides, he's not the kind of guy who would die to a mere hobgoblin, and so he starts raiding alone, and he shouts to the rear guard, asking what they are doing, ordering them to attack right away. Then the two start to get desperate, but they attack until the boys are killed, and they eliminate the hobgoblin from the cave with so much difficulty. Both the archer and the mage are all happy to have defeated the hobgoblin, but the priestess says that it wasn't them who defeated the hobgoblin, but Ryanwo who defeated it, and then he starts saying that he's really cool, but the guy is really pissed off at that bastard. Then the archer will talk to him, saying that what happened before was a mistake, asking if he is okay, so he questions what they're going to do with all these items, but the priestess asks if Ryanwo doesn't deserve to keep them all, and one is the random pet egg, money also with 5 silver and 28 bronze, and the magic book of the dark ball, and in that Ryanwo thinks they are all wanting to stay friendly, but wonders what will happen if they try to kill you. If suggests that he keep everything, and they are in doubt looking at the boy, and he says that he will only pick up an item and leave. Then he says he only needs the egg, and the book is of no use to him, and the priestess is shocked by this, but he runs away before they have anything to do speak, and the archer takes the opportunity to call him to hunt again, and the priestess asks if they can send him a friend request, and he says they can do that next time they see each other, and he thinks that because of all those stabs in the back, he potentially couldn't, and runs off. And as he returns to the city, he sees the status window, noticing that he is at level 10, and he thinks he can finally have a class advancement, and he talks about the class tower, or the advancement tower, so he says that each floor represents a different class that can, if you get it, and it's like a convenience store and something mandatory for players who arrive at Level 10, and he thinks about the random pet egg, because that is an egg with a random pet inside, which can be a rabbit or a dragon, and to use it you just have to inject mana, and the egg will hatch. Within an hour, and having that hour until the egg hatches, he thinks about getting a new class. And already in the tower, the director of the warrior floor, Khan asks if he wants to become a warrior, and Ryuo says he went there just for that, and Khan says he's smart, saying he likes him, and in this he says that classes are important from the second advancement onwards, and Khan says that they are different from those disgusting cheaters on the lower floors, and he will decide whether he deserves to become a warrior in battle or not, so Ryuo thinks that this is great, and so, Khan picks up a sword and throws it to the boy, saying he will let him make the first attack, and orders. He looks up, and Ryuo says he won't stand on ceremony then, going all out for him, and Ryuo begins to think that the attack was very sharp, and notices that the boy has become familiar with the sword. He is different from other adventurers, and he is better than enough to be a warrior, and so the boy keeps attacking Khan non-stop, and he starts to get happy, but thinks that the boy is still just a little adventurer who didn't get a decent class, activating his buff and throwing the boy away, and Khan thinks that the boy still has a long way to go. Defeat him, but Ryuo places his hand on the ground and throws his foot next to Khan's sword, giving I jump on her before Khan can attack, and he is surprised that the boy has blocked his sword with a shot, and Ryuo thinks he took a risk, but it really worked, and in that Khan is left surprised, as he had time to think how to counterattack while dodging, and he thinks that has a natural flow to his movements that do not follow traditional fencing, and he wonders if this is what they call natural talent, and Ryuo goes all out with blood in his eyes, but Khan stops him saying that it is enough, and he is more than qualified to achieve it. Pass, and Khan talks there sweating while the boy's sword is at his neck, and Ryuo says that he's warming up, and Khan goes back to saying that he's incredibly skilled, and he acknowledges it as a warrior, and so the boy advances to the class, and his strength and constitution increase. At 10 points, he also received the title of warrior recognized by Khan, and that is a title given to adventurers who are recognized by the strict class administrator Khan, and the effect is that the weapon attack increases by 5%, and he learned new skills, which would be mastery of weapons that makes the weapon attack increase by 10%, the dash that makes a leap forward and attacks with the weapon, and the strike that fills your weapon with magic and causes it to swing with force, and he thinks he also got a title, so he thinks it was worth it, and Khan says if it's him, maybe it is possible, send the boy to get something, and he receives a new quest, and Khan says that when he has complete confidence in his strength, he must find the owner of the coin, and the mission is to find the Knight of Kiani. He received the recommendation of the class administrator Khan, and if he is Kiani's Knight, LeBron, and the rank is E, that the objective is to enter with Kiani's Knight, and the reward is a skill from Kiani himself, and in this he remembers LeBron, saying that he leads an army in the arena, and is the most strong of his empire, and the reward is the skill of the strongest knight in the empire, and he thinks this is amazing, getting all silly, and Khan looking at that suspicious face, wonders if he made the right choice, giving the coin to that guy, then Rio says he doesn't want it more, wasting time, saying goodbye to Khan, leaving him behind, and he thinks that this was unexpected, because he got the secret mission, because he fulfilled a special requirement, but remember his rank, he will have to reach level 50 before doing so, and when he observes the egg, there is only 1 minute left to hatch, and so he takes the egg, saying he is very lucky, wondering what will happen if he gets an ionic pet, but it must be kind of hard to get a dragon. Then the egg starts to hatch, and soon he hopes that a dragon will come, but it turns out that the Ted, with the Barbie filter, comes out of there, saying that he is a cute little bear, and at that the boy is shocked by that, and Bone begins to say that he seems speechless, and turns into his beautiful way, and the boy is shocked that the pet actually speaks, but his lumpy teddy bear can do the most natural thing in the world, and Rio thinks about the talking pet, saying that it is something he never heard about it, so it's a very ionic pet, and he says that in any case it's extremely rare, and wonders if he can make money doing shows with him, but thinks that either way, that will bring him money. The guy was wanting to monetize Ted. While he thinks about it, the bear goes to his hair and starts doing pigtails, and says that from now on he will allow the boy to serve him, ordering the boy to walk, then asks what he is doing, telling the boy to walk again, and Rio says he doesn't understand what's happening, but sure, that bastard who came out of your pet's egg needs a lesson, throwing the animal out floor with everything, so he gets a hell of a beating. Then the little bear asks how dare he do this with the air of Bozing Island? who says that he is still qualified to be his master, while putting his hand up and asking for forgiveness, but even in this humiliating situation the teddy still pokes him, saying he's just warning him, but the girls won't like him. Never. Then Rio says he already asked him to shut up, and the teddy bear starts to cry, saying that he stopped with the violent master, and the boy thinks his skills are not total trash. And Rio says he's going to call him Tang, just like in Gongta Iji, and Tang, upon hearing this, says it's a good thing. Name, calling his master to toast and celebrate, but the boy says it was bad, because he was already planning to log out, and the teddy bear gets pissed off because he's only been alive for a few minutes, so he's left behind, and notices that his master seems to be the cruel master, and in that he takes off that helmet with a copy of salt. Then he says that he stayed a long time today, and his friend notices that he already is asking what he got, and he says he got a class and a patch, and it was nothing badly, and Johan-chan is surprised by this, asking if now doesn't mean he can start to prepare. Then the boy asks what it is, and Johan-chan wonders if he doesn't know, since it's the debut him as a streamer, and Rio was apparently the last to know that he was going to become a streamer, and after the shock Rio says he heard that streams pay really well these days. Then Johan-chan says that there is something he needs him to do, and the boy is in doubt, so Johan-chan says that he must record the entire game every time you play, and he will use these videos to make a promo and post on Arena's YouTube, and Rio says it's easier said than done, but Johan-chan tells him not to worry, because he's going to be your manager, and if people hear that the former #1 player started streaming, obviously I'm going to watch nonstop. And then Rio asks why he looks like more excited than him, and Johan-chan says that it is clear, because it is from the debut of Millie God, Kong Rio, that they are talking about, and how he would not be excited, and so the boy is happy, and says he will try to meet his expectations, and already in the western region of the Black Forest he returns to the game, and some dark elves start looking for him very angry, and he talks to Tang saying that it is his fight, asking if he can expect enough from him, and Asinio says of course, so he says that they're going to start opposing like crazy today, and then Asinio starts saying he's going to root for him, but Rio thinks this is bullshit, because he should also go up, but when he was trapped, complaining, he notices his sword receiving a buff, which is the Spirit of Orso, a buff from Ranjihara, of F proficiency, and increases strength and constitution by 5% for 5 minutes, and the cooldown is 1 minute, and Orso sends him to go there and kill them all, and also gives the Blessing of the Forest, which is Ranjihara, F proficiency, and increases armor by 5%, and constitution recovery by 0.1 every second, for 5 minutes, and so only now does Rio notice that he is a buff patch and not a tank, so an elf, like the first one who died. He says that he lowered his guard in front of him and tries to attack him, but the boy ends up killing him anyway, and says he let his guard down because he can, and he thinks about Tang saying he couldn't check it properly yesterday, but thinking he could increase his strength, constitution and armor, and it also gives a continuous recovery buff, and says that it is stronger than the buffers at his level, so only now he thinks he liked that Orso. Meanwhile, a person is watching him play, and it's a boy who looks quite suspicious, and he asks his partner if he is his prey today, noticing that he is wearing armor, sells in pants of the land, and he must be a rich player who buys items, and his friend asks which is the concept of that day, and he says it is a new group, and in that another bald guy says it is. It's amazing how they band together with the good guys, and also asks if they mean that they should ambush the boy when they get the chance, and this Sadadasa seems to be a little scared, wondering what will happen if he is someone's secondary character, but in this all, they look at each other in disbelief. Then she says that he seems used to fighting, then the other asks, who cares, because the level in the new forest expansion is 20, and there is no way that guy can defeat you, because they have an average level of 40, and no one can win when they are outnumbered, unless that you learn protagonism in the He-Man era, and the second of them agrees, saying that it is not like if they had done this once or twice only, and the third one says to this priestess that she worries too much, so she apologizes, and they say that Hiwu will be today's prey. Then they will steal all his items, and after killing all the elves, he says he recorded it. But hunting a dark elf doesn't have much impact, and Aeneas Tang goes to his shoulder speaking that he is very skilled, but Hiwu says he didn't catch him just so he could cheer from behind. And it's not Little Master as he was calling it, it's Master. Aeneas also says he blew his whistle, but he asks if the fight ends just because of Mufi, and says that Orso has constitution points enough, so he should at least distract them. Aeneas the archer arrives talking to him, asking if Hiwu is hunting alone, and then asks if everything is okay, and they join the archer, and then Hiwu is surprised and wonders what this is, and the archer says that it is good to see another player in the Black Forest, but Hiwu thinks they have 2 warriors, an archer and a priestess, wondering if this group is not well balanced, and wonders why they are inviting him, if he's not even a wizard, and besides everyone seems to have level 20 items. But he notices a sword next to one of the warriors saying that that is a sword that needs to be had level 40 to use, and says that the fact that he is hiding the level, getting closer to it, it means they are PK, so he thinks if they are really PK, it might be a good chance. And then he starts asking if they will let the media into the group, thanking them, and the archer asks if he is agreeing to join them, thinking they caught another idiot. Then he says his name is Ren, and he stays in the rear, and that is his vanguard. Cal and Crawford, as well as the priestess who calls herself Basil, and Hiwoo introduces himself to them as Yangshan, asking them to take care of him, and Tank also introduces himself, and he thinks he's kind of strange to say your real name to them who have just met, and as you continue walking, Hiwoo continues to kill the dark elves with the greatest of ease. They begin to get scared, and he hides behind the huge Tank, who gets a little scared, but ends up coming back killing the elf in betrayal, cutting his abdomen, and in that he goes back behind the Tank again, while recharging his attack, and the remaining elf notices and starts to get very pissed off at the boy, and starts calling Hiwoo a cowardly human, and in that he thinks that the member of that group are strong, so it almost seems like he paid them to do it, and the proficiency of their skill is rising too much, so he realizes that it was a good thing that they started hunting in groups. And then the archer starts to notice that there is something strange. I don't know if it's an archer, or if it's that bulge there on the chest, that little face, I'm not mistaken, and so on at one point. Then Tank starts to get pissed, wondering what kind of idiot that guy is, because he just attacks and runs behind him, wondering if he isn't using all of them, and he says that even when he attacks Hiwoo pretending to be a mistake, he dodges it in luck, so he thinks he will die from frustration, and in that the archer tells him to calm down, because the target is not the hunt, and in that the warrior then asks how long they have to wait for them, and the paladin says to continue. Acting is cool and all, but it's not good if it takes too long, so the archer says he was planning him with that right away. While they catch the boss, they should kill him and pretend it was without want, as they can tell that their attacks have mixed together. Instead, the Tank hears everything that is being talked about and runs to tell Hiwoo. He finds out about their plan about him stabbing from behind as they kill the boss, and Little Bear is in despair as Hiwoo notices that they are even PK players, and says he gave them a lot of grace, and his tasks are over, so he goes attack them first, and he immediately thinks about the title of the video, I killed a bunch of PK and look what happened. He says it's a pretty cool name, and that's it. Seriously, he's starting to look like a villain, but Hiwoo thinks Yongshan will like it, and he will make them pay for trying to betray him, and he will return it 10 or even 100 times more, and in that Tank notices that his master's face has become diabolical, and in that the group returns to Hiwoo apologizing for making him wait, and he says it's no problem, and the archer says that now they are going to hunt the boss, asking if he wants to join them, and he is surprised by this, and he asks if it would help in any way, because he feels like it will only attack them, and the archer starts to get desperate, because the plan is starting to fail, go down the drain, and he says that there is nothing like that, because he has a very great offensive power, and inside he questions whether the boy is really messing around by wanting to back out right now, and the archer says that if it weren't for him, they wouldn't have gotten this far, and Hiwoo appears fall for his joke, while the archer says that they should simply hunt the boss while are in this, and Hiwoo says that if he tells him that, then he will have to consider, and questions whether they will keep this same formation, and he says that it is clear. Then Hiwoo says he will show them that this really means carrying someone, and at this one of the warriors gets even more pissed off, saying that little shit is convinced as always, and tells him to just wait, because they will kill you now soon, and getting close to the boss, they continue facing the elves, until one of them manages to assault one of the warriors, throwing him away with just his foot, and to make matters worse situation, the elf begins to humiliate him, asking how he manages to collapse after only that, and the elf says that if he came to the Black Forest just to test his strength, to be at least a little strong, where it's appropriate for a warrior, and the Black Alpha Chief speaks with what seems like they are not ready, and in this the warrior says that he knows that they are wearing equipment low level, but wonder how the boss is so difficult to face even at level 40, and in this they wonder when the archer will give the signal, remembering when he was setting up the plan, where he said that that guy will probably train his skills even during the boss attack, and that's when they'll attack him, and he says that's how, based on applying the buff on him, which he will shoot a paralyzing arrow, so they should focus there. Attacks the boy, and one of the warriors questions if he is planning to finish him off, and only he's dressed because he wants to play with that cocky little shit while he's paralyzed, and his friends say that Cow looks like a tremendous psychopath, and in that, Huan says that Cudel is over, and proposes to go after the boss, so the archer asks him to. This priestess starts this, and she buffs him, buffing her entire team. They notice that it's finally starting, but when the boy passes by them, the archer starts aiming at Huan, but the Tank starts to climb his body, letting out a light sniff in his ear, hers, I don't know, that does make the arrow, and hit your own teammate, hitting him with the paralyzing arrow, and applying a critical damage. Then they talk to Cow, and he apologizes, saying that damn Tangerine Bone distracted him, and he says he's not Tangerine, he's Tank, and Huan asks apologies, saying that Tank is such a playful idiot, that he has no control, and in that the hare. Dekuya asks what's going on, but the Alpha Chief appears behind him, and the archer shouts for Crawfords to be careful, because there is something behind him, but it is too late, and Alpha says that the low guard is a pleasure that does not belong to the weak. And with that Huan starts acting by ordering. The elf releases Crawfords, but when he goes up to the elf doesn't know what's going on happening, because the kid just hit Crawfords in his rib, and killed him, and he activates his final move, stab in the back, and so he dies, while the archer and the Sedatista. They ask him what he thinks he's doing, and Huan questions what he means by that, because when they are trying to betray someone, he should know very well that the same thing could happen to him. And the elf is in disbelief, not understanding what is going on, and the archer asks when they did so, but Tang appears beside him revealing his entire plan, as while they were facing the boss, they should have killed him as if it was a mistake. He continues speaking they can simply say that their moves went wrong, and the archer asks how the bear knows that, and starts trying to attack the boy, but Huan manages to deflect everything their attack, and says that it is easy to predict the trajectory of an arrow coming in a straight line, and starts to go up, and the elf remains standing there, left aside while they are reaching for itself, and the warrior says that this is shit, because if he could get up, the boy would be an easy target to deal with, but the elf will shoot and rip off the warrior's head, saying that the defeated people shouldn't talk, and so the boy finishes killing them both, and says that human seems much more interesting, and sometime later with everyone dead, he wonders if that was recorded properly as he was only one level higher than you, but his skills were pathetic, and it won't be easy to get people's attention if your opponents are so weak, but he thinks this should be a good enough performance, and the video should have turned out well too. Understood, and now that the story is complete, if he can simply have an opponent with whom he can expose his skills it would be very good, so the elf who was waiting there asks if the human is already finished, and he says that facing someone powerful is always a pleasure, and bro, this elf is very, very cool, and in this Huo thinks that as a subtitle for the video, level 20 player assassinating a dark elf chief should do the trick. Then he goes after the elf black, exchanging a hell of a fight, and with Yongshan he says that the boy is very lucky, wondering how he managed to find people like that, and he talks about the items dropped by Yongshan, and also rewards from the attack on the boys. He managed to gather all of this that day, and those guys dropped a good amount of items due to the penalties of having committed murder, and Yongshan says that the video looks like it will be really amazing. He just needs to find a good editor and they can just get the show going. And in this Huo asks if he is talking about string, but Yongshan does not give an answer with gray, so he questions what this is, as it has to do with him, so why couldn't he know? Yongshan says he will know when the time is right, and from Yongshan's printer the paper is printed. He commented on the project of making Kong Huo a pop star, and the return is at 1%. At first Yongshan notices that he doesn't have any decent editors, and starts to evaluate some, but they are not good, and he notices that most of them are also not available, and he wonders if he should increase the remuneration a little more, and since Huo filmed well, now all they need is a talented editor, so he notices a person talking, who may have found your editor, and the profile name is Alice's Movie. The specialty is editing of arena videos, and among the achievements she collects the most popular video of that month, The World of Arena, and Arena Content Creator of the Year as well, and Yongshan notes that they are kind of expensive, but they fit perfectly, and so he talks about Alice, a video editor known for be a ghost among the arena content creators, and they make a thorough expression in every frame of the video, and they use hand-picked music, and their color palette is eye-catching from many viewers, and he says that Alice ended up receiving the nickname from the creators community, Arena Content, the virtuoso video editor, and that's what they call him. Meanwhile the guy who most Alice is editing a video, she wondered how someone can be so bad at PK, and he says that the person in the video is only this strong, thanks to Patreon, and in that he receives another email from people wanting to edit his video, so he starts paying, but then he sees an email from Yongshan in the middle of everyone he is receiving, and notices that this is the guy Michael introduced him to, and when he opens it, he is amazed, noticing that he is the guy who uploads the videos of Melee Glad, and the narrative of that hunt is perfect, and you can even see the stars in the boss fight, and in that he thinks he really wants to edit that, and that's Alice, which is that cute anime girl cover, and he says he'll be a Melee fan glad from now, and he's going to take it to the main stage of the arena, and he laughed, they're inside the game. Be an absurd chill, and Tang asks what it was, and he says that he suddenly got some chills, and he asks if Tang thinks there is an enemy hiding around there, so he says that this is not important now, and says that the PK's left that with a penalty. The book of the skill is random rare, and it is said that when using it the player will receive a skill, random rare rank, and so he says he can sell this for a lot of money, but he also thinks he will get something good if he uses it, so he talks to Tang, giving a hypothetical situation for his pet NPC to respond, assuming he is in a vacant lot, and he didn't know what would happen to him, and if he was considering building a farm there. He wonders if Tang thinks it would be better to sell it as is, but Tang questions what they will do with the land if he sells it. Then he says they will probably build the farm that he was going to build. Then he asks why he would sell, asking if the master is so poor like that, and laughed. Oh, think that's not it, because he already sold the PK items, so he doesn't need to actually sell that one, so he kicks the bucket, saying it's not like he has bought with his money, so he has nothing to lose, using the random skill book, and winning one, and the system presents him with the blood for blood skill, and this skill gives a punch full of spirit, and ignores 10% of the opponent's defense, so he says that this is still a lot. Well, thank goodness he used it, and talks to Tang, saying that it is his only lucky charm, and it starts to generate the little bear who doesn't stop cursing him, and in that he says that a few days later, the rhymed video was uploaded into the arena world, and the response was overwhelming, especially among users who were attacked by PKs when they were around the same level, and Anshin thinks this is amazing, because they have already passed of 150,000 views, and he knew, because the films are very well edited. And since they are charging little, he thinks they also like the rhyme, so he thinks he will level up in your channel too. Meanwhile, Nike manager Kyle watches the PK hunt video, saying that the roles are reversed, and the premise is fun, and in that he realizes that it's not over yet, and when he continues watching the video, he sees the Milligode facing the Dark Elf, and defeating him in skill, and so it was an absurd fight, and he is impressed by a user in that level is easily defeating a dark target boss with his good control. Then he says that been wasting his time on unsatisfactory candidates, and that player delivered what was needed to be a star, and he thinks he has to get him signed with Nike no matter what, and he looks and notice that the girl from the Argon channel, thinking that she will need to talk to them first, and already in the forest black in the North Zone, and Anshin continues killing trolls this time, and continuing on top of several players while Tang or B of A, so he thinks that he is definitely leveling up more faster than in the past, and he thinks he played for the first time with the Milligode, so he was missing items and knowledge before, and this time it's being much easier, and since he's already behind in game, he has to improve much faster, and he keeps killing those orcs getting to the level 24. He says that meadow orcs are too easy for him now, so Tang talks to him in a very affectionate way, calling him a stupid master, saying that he thinks he has become stronger, and so he notices that Tang really stayed, and notices that he is already at level 15, and says that among the players he has seen, each one has a different level increase in status. In common they go up between 3 and 5, rare between 6 and 7, and unique between 8 and 10, and the way the statuses are rising. Tang is definitely a unique patch, and he thinks his buffs are good, and in the future he will also be able to tank, so he keeps asking his master to carry him, and the boy thinks that the only thing he still needs to learn is some manners, and in that he will receive a beating and will start to deb-one those monsters, and Omanda he is sure to be careful and not leave nothing behind, and Tang starts talking about what a stupid jerk he is, until he notices who is looking at an orc's arm, and goes to see what it is, noticing that it is a necklace, wondering why would an item like that drop there. He says he's never seen it before, and in that he gets a new mission, the heir to the Proto-Wolf tribe, and he is curious about this mission, and he notices that he must deliver the necklace to the current boss, Hakan, and wonders what it means. If questioning, he must be recognized by a boss monster, and he says that the Khan champion will be very difficult to defeat, and the boss Hakan is probably an NPC, and this is a quest and an NPC, which he has never heard of. If we question this is not incredible, and note that this is a mission that he must have, so he needs to be at least level 30, and 4 more levels, and he will be ready to go. Then he decides, saying he has to go, calling Tung Tung to hunt, but the bear asks his master to rest a little, but then some time later he says that this is very slow, and after all this it only went up 1 level, saying that there is a limit. Then he can do alone, but Tung gets pissed, questioning what he means by alone, because he is working hard to help you from behind, so he says that playing in a group would help him level up faster, but only if he had people he could trust. And then Tung starts asking him to listen to him, then he hears a noise, and notices that This looked like a bomb or magic, and already on site a wizard is fighting an orca, until he finally manages to defeat him with his fireball, and he thinks that was the 10th, and in that the maze says that his mana is emptying too quickly, and his potions are ending, and he wonders if he should stop for today, as there is a limit to how much he can do. Hunt alone, then Hiwoo and his psychopathic Ted appear behind the boy, asking if he spoke to himself. Then the boy wonders if it is a monster activating his mana quickly, saying that he couldn't even tire you out properly, and he attacks Hiwoo with a magic arrow, but ends up realizing he screwed up, because that is a person, and in that he realizes he didn't hit the boy, just hit his shoulder, so Hiwoo says that was dangerous, taking tongue out of the straight at the last second, and the maze is discredited, because that guy dodged his magic at that distance, and in that, Hiwoo asks him to relax, as it was his fault for appearing out of nowhere, introducing himself to his wife, and the boy asks if he needs anything, wondering who this guy is, because he is dressed like a clown and is carrying a teddy bear, and that definitely makes him very suspicious, and Hiwoo thinks that the magic power and enchantment speed are very good, and he passed, and Hiwoo talks to the corn noticing that he is alone, so he destroys it thinking if he didn't want to hunt in a group, and the boy is a little doubtful, but he promises that he is strong, and Maizao thinks he didn't hear about a PK with that strange appearance, and seeing how he dodged your attack, he's not just any player, so he says it was hard to hunt alone, so it could be a good opportunity, and he agrees to make a group with the boy, and they close the deal. Somewhere in the Black Forest, a much larger and pure orc appears. He makes a very strong knight, cuts him in half with a single attack, and thinks that this is very boring. Then a girl talks to Shang, telling him that he should have more fun while they are there, but he says that what is boring, so the girl says that they were orders from the guild master, and in that she asks Hiwoo how the trip is going, asking if he is feeling safe, and this is gang, and he says that of course, saying that it is the first time taking hitchhikes like that, and he introduces himself as Park Hiwoo, a member of the infamous Black Skull Guild. Then he says that his ID was deleted in an accident, but since the guys above valued their persecutions, they ordered him to create a new ID and they will carry him until he gets where was, and the reason he ended up there is all because of that coward who invaded his territory, and unfairly won a bet worth deleting the character. Unfairly, right? Okay, and he says who will find that guy and make him feel the wrath of his guild, thanks to the senpais, and in that, he says that there don't seem to be many orcs there, asking if there is another group there, and the knight says that their goal was to get it to level 25, but at this rate they don't think they'll make it. He thinks he would need a group of more than 2 to finish off so many orcs, but in this they notice an orc spawning, and the boy runs off thinking about finishing him off and himself, and while this Mason talks to Hiwoo thanking them for joining as they are going much further, faster than when they were alone, and he says he's even leveled up. He thinks that first he gets the orcs' attention and lures them to an area, then Mason uses his magic attack long distance on him, and then Hiwoo finishes them off, and he says that all he did was repeat this process, but he is leveling up much faster, and Tang talks to the wizard, saying that they are great, saying that it allows him to inherit and become his servant, and in this he thinks that the top it's cute, but Hiwoo asks if Tang is sure about it, since his first greeting was a magic arrow, and then Tang says he had forgotten about it, as it was an indiscriminate weapon of terror, but he says it was both their fault, and he thinks he gets scared easily, but he doesn't attack people, and then another monster appears again, and Hiwoo says he will take care of that one, asking Mason save his mana, and when he gets close, he kills the monster before the other boy can do it, and in that he remembers Hiwoo getting really pissed, saying that he was the bastard that time who has been looking for him, but Hiwoo quickly pecks him in the face, breaking some teeth, and apologizes, saying that he thought he was a monster, and then his senpais appear to save Hiwoo. Meanwhile Hiwoo talks to Mason, saying that it's not his fault that he gave him scared like that, and Mason finds it quite hypocritical, so Hiwoo starts saying that he hit him on purpose, and tells his sambas that that is the guy, saying that it was he who deleted his ID, so Hiwoo remembers him, but asks what the kid's name was again, and then Mason asks if he knows that person, and Hiwoo says he's an idiot friend who lost the character in a bet, so Hiwoo questions who he is friends with, saying that 2 guild executives are with him today and he's dead, but no one asks the boy to calm down, and he tells Hiwoo to also moderate his tone of voice, as he has a limit to his patience, and the boy doesn't seem too worried, asking what he's going to do when she's done, saying he doesn't have any fear of the Rotten Bone Guild or whatever the name is, and in this he says that the Black Skull is very pissed. Then Mason says that those 2 seem to be at least level 60, asking if they won't hurt them, but Hiwoo asks Mason not to get involved if they do end up fighting, but then Xiao says that he's a pain, saying he's leaving, and Gen 2 goes, saying that they are busy, getting tired, and in that Hiwoo asks what they are doing, but seeing that they won't respond respond and keep leaving. He says he won't have another choice if you don't report them, and he says he'll tell the bosses that Xiao and Jen ran away later. Here's some guy talking shit about the guild, so Hiwu asks them to follow his lead, and wants to apologize later, and so the knight gets fed up, saying that he is quite arrogant, throwing him away with a single blow, and he says that it will be faster to hunt if a group disappear, and Hiwu asks if they are asking for a duel, but says he only duels, betting on the character's exclusion and asking if everything is okay, but Mason says that the character his will be erased if he loses, so he also questions what will happen to him if Hiwu lose, and he says that he will probably be erased too, and in that if he sorta, and he says that all three can come, as the terms will be the exclusion of the character and the winner takes all, in the style of Battle of Captains, and even the knight notices that he is appealing at level 20, but is very arrogant, saying that he will accept the challenge, and then it is explained about the Battle of Captains, for one captain from each side will duel, and the winner continues, and then another representative of the losing team enters the fight, and he says that the side that is left without a representative first is considered the loser, and so the first duel is Hiwu versus Xiao, and Hiwu continues, saying that he will make him shut up this time, but Xiao complains that he talks too much, and Mason questions if everything will be okay, and Tang says that if he loses he's worth the sweaty hand, and then he says that he doesn't need to worry, because this will be easy, and so the duel begins, and in that Xiao says he will end this in one blow, as they have other things to do, and Hiwu says that since he will need more than one hit because of the level difference, he will finish him in 10, and Xiao says that he now understands why Park Jun-woo hates him so much, going after the boy with everything, throwing his big sword at the boy, but Hiwu manages to deflect and divert that sword from his direction, and Xiao is surprised, and Hiwu says that Hiwu is gone, while hitting Xiao's neck, and everyone is surprised by this, and Mason thinks it's amazing because he read the sword's trajectory and counterattacked while deviated, and so Xiao continues to become more and more desperate and asks why doesn't he can't fit any attack, and he beats him in level and items, and how can there be a difference so big, and at that Hiwu asks if he is surprised, because everyone thinks they can win, because they are at a high level, but they are talking about the arena, and levels and items do not matter. They do not guarantee victory in a PvP, and he says that even if someone has a lower level than yours, he still has a way to hurt you, and so he completes the third blow, saying that the way to hurt the person is by making him bleed multiple wounds, and it takes a while, but it can defeat a user with any level using this method. Oh there, you're throwing bleeding hair. In a little while he takes the blood-red sword from the ice map of Alden Ring, and in that Mason stays surprised, as he knew that Hiwu's control was quite exceptional, but he didn't know that it was good at that level, and then he wins the first duel and complains about what the other two are doing, asking for the next one to go, and the next battle was completely one-sided and intimidated by the activities of Hiwu. Gain was defeated without landing a single blow, and then only one participant remained, Park Jin-woo, and then the boy says it's a shame, because he was being carried just to redo his character, but is about to be defeated again, and he wonders if there will be any others left, guild members who want to carry him, and he wonders why he remembers Jean Rambeck when see that guy, because they are both arrogant because of the aids they have, and also they relax a bit, and this makes him want to bother them even more, and he asks Jin-woo to beg, and maybe, who knows, he hits him, then he becomes discredited, because Park Jin-woo took a hit, fatal when he was level 40, and now he was only level 20, so there was no way he could get rid of it, and he starts having extreme anxiety, rapid heartbeat, and the arena Berserkia mode. Then he starts to get more and more powerful, and Mason realizes this, with Heleno on top of Hiwu, and he says that the first time he met him, he already knew that he was the kind of guy who got irritated easily. Then he tells the boy that it's time for him to go home, because he can't act in a way there, and defeats the boy with just one punch, crushing him to the ground, and so, Hiwu easily wins the duel against the three. And he received rewards according to the winner takes everything, and in that he says he won 3 of them, and they practically gave him their items, and that's much better than hunting monsters, so Mason comes running to him, and Hiwu remembers telling him, which was nothing special. Then Mason says he was really cool, and he beat someone with a higher level just with his technique, and says he became a fan of the boy, and he thinks he would be surprised, and he starts to get used to being the first in the ranking, but he thinks that this is a little embarrassing, and he asks Mason if he should go back to hunting, and the boy says yes, and already some time later, he says that thanks to him, hunting was very easy. He asked if they can do that again, and he sends a friend request to Hiwu. He says that they will do it, and he thinks he was able to get to level 31 or join with Mason, and there aren't many kids innocent like him in the arena, and he is also skilled, and Hiwu has a feeling that they will get along in the future, so he says he has already leveled up enough, and now they will finish the mission. Then he says that the mission's big kiss is to deliver the necklace, and to find the boss Haken. First First he has to find the boss that appears in the plains, Meadow Wolf Tribe, Dakin, and this type of boss spawns randomly in his area, and he says he has a respawn of 12 hours, and it's been more than 12 hours since he got there, so he should be around, but Dakin isn't. Appears, and Tang talks to him, asking him to stop and rest for a while, as he can't walk, for being so tired, and the boy says he is too, and Tang points to a little door wondering if they can rest there, as they will be comfortable, and Lizzie wonders if there was a with him, and when he gets there, he tells the champion's girlfriend Dakin, so they are surprised by having found it that way, and he realizes that that is the entrance to Dangon, saying that he knew that Tan Tan could, saying that he is a lucky woman, but he says it's shit, because he just wanted rest, but Hyung Woo says he will dispel him, asking him to stop crying, and he realizes that the monster does not appear on the field, like the other monsters, and he wonders if it is in the form of Dangon because of the mission, and he says that now that he found it, he opens the door and enters, but when he gets there, he notices a gigantic orc, with a huge body and a crushing pressure, so he asks if that is Dakin, and he asks what business the human has there, and he says he feels that he won't be able to defeat him at the level he is at, so Dakin, already irritated, asks the boy, and he says he came to deliver that necklace to Hakan Neen, then he asks if that necklace it's not from Konkuin, asking if that idiot caused trouble again, then he thanks him, saying that the boy can leave now, but before handing over the necklace, he pulls it back, and leaves the orc kind of irritated, and the orc keeps trying to steal that necklace from the boy's hand, and asks if Hyung Woo didn't hear what he just said to hand it over and leave, so he says he insists on handing it over, the necklace to Hakan Neen, and he thinks to himself that there is no chance of the mission ending if he hands it over. Pace now, and he will take what he can from that quest, and Dakin says he recognizes his spirit, but if he wants to meet with the boss, he needs to have a certain level of power, saying that he will test the boy, and in this he receives a new mission, which is the recognition of Dakin. He needs the recognition from Dakin to meet with Hakan. He must fight him to receive recognition, and in that, he is happy, because he knew there would be another mission. This necklace is at least rare, and then Dakin begins to quickly dodge, grabbing the boy's head, and throwing him into the air, and Hyung Woo manages quickly lands on his feet after being thrown, but Dakin continues to attack him fiercely, but the boy manages to get out of the way of his attack, leaving Dakin very scared, and appears next to him trying to attack him, and Dakin asks if he dodged his attack, and tried to attack him too. But in doing so he manages to dodge Hyung Woo's attack, staying suspended and preparing to hit the boy, and so he actually gets it right, and he says that level 31 is still extremely weak, and he is too much for that control defeat, and he is definitely the strongest opponent he found since returning to the arena, and Dakin still says that it is not enough for meet with the boss, saying that the boy certainly doesn't have just that, and his HP was 520 became 120, and the boy says that of course not, saying that he hasn't used all his power yet. Then he summons Tang again, saying it's an emergency, asking him to prepare his buff, and Tang asks if he knows what the weather is like since he told him to rest, and he asks Hyung Woo to stop hunting so much, because he will become addicted, and the boy says that if he is a boy, he must act like one, and in that Dakin notices that the bear is that troublemaker from the island of Buzzing, and Tang calls Dakin uncle, then he says it's been a while, asking if that man is his master, and he says yes, saying he can call him stupid master, and Hyung Woo, it is disbelieved that they both know each other, and Tang questions if they were fighting, and he says that no, saying that he had to pass a test so that he could meet with Orc Hakan, so Tang seems to know him, but Dakin says that the conversation is enough, because he is in the middle of a judgment, and tells Tang that if he is his master, he will allow them to fight together, asking if he will participate, and he says he doesn't think it's smart of him to interfere, so he will just cast spells from there, but Hyung Woo says that's the only thing he knows. Do it anyway, then he receives the spirit of the bear and the blessing of the forest, and Dakin tells him to go up, saying that he won't go easy on him because he's his friend's master, so the kid thinks that even with buffs, he still doesn't think he can win, but he can't stop now, because he will go as far as he can, but after making a cool speech, he wakes up on the ground, then Dakin defeats the whole Sisha, and with the place completely destroyed, he gives up, and says he would die if he continued, and Tang tells him to stop exaggerating, because he still fought well against him, but the boy says that it doesn't matter, and it's in vain if he doesn't pass, but in that Dakin asks who said he needed to defeat him to pass, and the boy notices this, and he completes the recognition of Dakin, and Orc says that he proved himself, delivering to him the reward for passing the test. Dakin's necklace, and they are both super happy, and the system says that Hakan will appear, and in that he is summoned behind the boy, with an absurd pressure, and a very strong. Dakin appears, and the boy notices that it is Hakan, because now he understands why he needed do that test, because in terms of strength, Dakin would be coffee with milk, and Hakan would be espresso, but he corrects himself saying that he would be the pure coffee bean, and Dakin goes to talk to Hakan, saying that the man came to give him the Cancun necklace, and he asks about this Cancun, asking if he brought the necklace, and the boy says yes, and Hakan says it's really his, and starts yelling that Cancun is shit, and he yells that Cancun should be brought to him. The same instant, and Ryohan is completely frightened, while Hakan's roar makes him that all his skills fall by 50% and it becomes impossible to restore HP, but in this Dakin goes to him and asks his boss to calm down, and he tells him not to interrupt, but Dakin asks against Hakan and thinks he hated him because he even hid his necklace this time, and Ryohan explains the story of that mission. Cancun is the son of Hakan and the future chief of the tribe, and he hated the heavy training from his father, so he ran away, and to combat this he was forced to use a spell that would reveal his location and summon him immediately, and had a spell which made it impossible to remove, but someone helped break it, and so he finally could run away, and the one who broke the spell was Tang. I certainly didn't expect this plot twist, and apparently Tang is a little more important than I thought, and he says he didn't know that things would get out of hand like that, and Ryohan asks if he can do things like that, and Tang asks if his idiot master doesn't know how capable he is. Then the boy says that he is incredible, and in that Hakan apologizes, saying that the problem is related to his son, who lost his head for a moment. He says he will reward him for bringing his necklace, and thus he completes the Plains Wolf Tribe Heir, receiving XP that makes his level increases, and thus stamina and magic are restored, and he also learns a new skill that is magic condensation, and condensed magic to expel greater power, and so he says it's a unique and incredible ability, and magical abilities are the most coveted in the arena, and Hakan says that if he bumps into that bastard, he should tell him that his home is the Black Forest, so he receives a mission that leaves the boy amazed, because he is a very generous orc, and he needs to stay close to him, and Huan takes the opportunity to pull the Hakan's bag, saying that he will do whatever he asks, and in that he talks to the little bear from the island of Buzzing, telling him not to worry too much about Cancun, and he says of course, and Hakan says that in fact, there was no spell on the necklace after all, and it's not his fault, so he notices that can't break spells, and Huan realizes again how capable he is, and so in reality, with Yongshan, he tells the boy to wake up, and Huan asks if he will give him a mission, but his friend questions what he is talking about, saying he has something to say, asking him to wake up, and he has two good news for him, and he says that his first video went viral, and he already has more of 127,000 views. Look, it's different here, last time it was the biggest number, in translation it's 170, and there are 127,390, and so Huan thanks his friend, saying that it is all thanks to him, and he tells him not to celebrate, saying that the second one is even better, and he received an email from Nick Management, so he talks about Nick, saying that it is a fashion company that started investing in streams. For now they are the #1 company in arena management, and he says that they want to recruit her, and the boy locks on to the information that she is #1, noting that the company #1 in the world wants to recruit him, and he says it hasn't been a week since he returned to arena, and an opportunity like this has already appeared. He remembers everything he went through in his family, and all the suffering he is experiencing, and he starts to shake, so Yongshan asks if he has already decided, and the boy says yes. Then he says that they sent their contract, asking if he wants to make a call, and the boy confirms, and so Yongshan puts him on the line, and on Nick talking to the boss, saying that they hired the player in the video, and his name is Kong Huan, and he decided to use the username Alibos, and he says it's hard to pronounce, so he simply calls him Mr. G, but says he has a problem, asking how it sounds if he abbreviates it, Mr. G, and that would be MG, and Jamie asks if he's joking, and he asks if MG doesn't remember him and another player, and so Jamie looks amazing, and that he realizes that only then did he recognize the melee god, and he was in first place in the hunts, and disappeared 2 years ago, and Jamie asks if he recruited a big shot like that, saying that 2 years ago the number of players in the arena exploded, and which he made popular worldwide, and now makes unimaginable profit, and has become a world itself, and he realizes that he is telling him that this legendary player has returned, and he wonders exactly how much the return of that ranking will shake up the arena world.